Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan Battle video. In this video we are going to be taking a look at the Corroded Body and Mind category and how you can build a team using the Corroded Body and Mind category or build a couple teams using the Corroded Body and Mind category. Now it's a very small category, it's actually pretty niche. There's only two leads for the category in the form of the physical Janemba LR and in the form of the tech Janemba. So both are pretty decent. I do think the best lead is probably physical Janemba because he also doubles over as a movie boss's lead, whereas tech Janemba is just a corroded body and mind and an extreme class lead. Although extreme class is fine, 130% is pretty decent. But yeah, obviously a very crucial link, as with any extreme team, is going to be the big bad bosses link. It's super duper important because obviously it's a 25% start of turn defense and attack buff, so it's pretty important, and most units will have it. You know, Goku Blacks, Janembas, even the metal coolers, a lot of them are going to have this. Only ones that won't really is the Margin Vegeta. But yeah, it's a pretty decent time, I want to say, in terms of the big bad bosses link, but the rest is pretty bad. There's not a lot of other dual linkages. A lot of Goku Blacks and Margin Vegetas will share the Prepared for Battle link, but most of them will not share this. A lot of them will share maybe Metamorphosis, some will share Fear and Faith, Nightmare, but generally speaking the linkage between these units is not great. You kind of have to link apples with apples in this category, and you're going to more often than not have two different rotations of different kinds. You're not really going to be left with like the situation where you have like a lot of units or anything. You're just going to kind of be left with, you know, this like two different rotation kind of team. One rotation will probably be like Janembas or something, whereas the other rotation will probably be Goku Blacks, etc., and things like that. So yeah, for the most part, like, it's a pretty simple kind of build for this team, but it is just pretty tough. Like, it's a pretty rough time if you're not linking apples with apples. Now there are some interesting components here. Janembas, or both Janembas, are probably very close to being some of the best kind of tanks in the games, which I think is pretty good. They have key nullification, they have guard, they're just very solid. So there is that going for the team, which I think is pretty good. But one thing I will mention is the Corroded Body and Mind category does tend to lack damage, and this is mainly due to links. The fact that the team doesn't necessarily have great linking partners, and because its supports are good but also somewhat limited to a certain extent, it can cause one or two issues across the board. So yeah, obviously when you're building a Corroded Body and Mind team, it is something that's going to need to be kind of, you know, well built. You're going to have to build it per event. It's not like one of those categories where you're going to have like a one all team. You do have some decent crossover units, but these units again are not necessarily the wildest, you know, in terms of like units or anything like that. You are going to need to kind of be a little bit like aware of what you're putting together. For example, here you can see we're definitely taking emphasis with the metal coolers, going to be using them as a set rotation alongside the Janembas as one. We're going to have the Strength Goku Black as a kind of floating support, which is fantastic. And he's great in an SBR situation. We're very unfortunate that the Goku Black and Zamasu LR does not count as a Corroded Body and Mind unit, which is a little bit of a shame overall, I think. So yeah, obviously that's maybe a little bit of an issue, but generally speaking, I think, you know, it's a pretty simple kind of concept here. I don't think there's too much that you need to kind of look out for. There's some very clear winners when it comes to long form events and things like that, and I think overall the team clearly has some set functionality and abilities. One thing I will state is it's important to understand that units like Captain Ginyu don't necessarily link the best here. Units like Captain Ginyu unfortunately have kind of a lack of ability to link up with this team, because Captain Ginyu doesn't really have some of the prerequisite links that really make him work well. He is still good, without a doubt, but it is something just to mention. His best linking partner is probably Deborah, and Deborah is okay. Like, I don't have a problem with Deborah, but the big issue with Deborah in general is more so that he kind of lacks this overarching like capabilities. He just doesn't scale very well overall, which is a little bit of a shame. Now, of course, when we look at the category, there are some free-to-play units that we want to be considerate of, but generally speaking, not too many. The free-to-play Metal Cooler team is very good, and you can definitely use this team. It's incredibly powerful overall, and if you just want to kind of be lazy with the Corroded Body and Mind category, going full Metal Cooler team kind of works for most of the content, pretty much everything up to Red Zone, which is fine. Honestly, it's really not a problem at all. But yeah, I think that's probably the easiest way to go about it. The rest are probably few and far between. I think Deborah is okay. I think the Time Travelers, Goku Black is okay, but I think these units have kind of aged. Very similar to the Yamu and Spopovich. They just have aged a little bit and they don't function as nicely as maybe one would like them to. But yeah, I think overall, for me at least, probably the Metal Coolers are definitely the highlight in terms of synergy and in terms of easy access kind of free-to-play team. So yeah, I think that basically covers it in terms of everything you need for team building and just discussing the various team builds. Like I said, it's got quite a bit of uniqueness to this category. It's definitely one you're going to want to be interweaving in and out with each other. And carefully constructing your team depending on the content. Unless you want to be lazy and go for the full Metal Cooler, then you might as well just keep it to Wicked Bloodlines. It's not really got anything to do with Corroded Body and Mind then, so yeah. But I think overall, it's a pretty fun category. I like the crossover element. I do wish they would kind of work on that a little bit. But yeah, for me, it's a lot of fun. And I do have a pretty nice kind of feeling about the category, although I do think the biggest issue is links and damage. I think it's a strong team that's durable, but I think it just lacks a bit of damage overall. But yeah, it's quite interesting to see. I would love to get your guys' thoughts on it. Obviously, we'll be trying it out in 2 bits of content, Red Zone and ESBR SBR. But yeah, that's it from me. Bye.